Power works towards or against you, and most gets abused by this power.
Research shows that more people use anabolic steroids than heroin. In fact, steroids are becoming some of the most popular drugs out there.
And this is what we commonly see when we think of steroids and other powerful anabolics. Seeing bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts taking these compounds to extremes, resulting in freakishly looking bodies and a host of side effects. And this is why most are scared to ever look into these compounds. But with self-control, awareness, and a strategy, I believe these compounds could unlock new levels of male life. With the ability to build muscle faster, stay shredded year-round, think smarter and more clearly, feeling stronger in your body, gaining respect from other men and attraction from other women, and ultimately allowing you to live the best male life and experience a male advantage. I'll be researching and experimenting with steroids and other anabolics with the intent in mind to max out male development, to push male life adaptation, and to overall allow man to live the best male life. So come on my journey as I'll do my best to share everything of how I learned about these, my strategy, my intention, everything I can do to be 100% transparent and show my research. Hello men, welcome to episode 2 of my first steroid cycle, and I'm so pumped to be back. As you can see, I completely redid my studio, hoping to bring the best quality content I can bring, and every single day I'm thinking of new ways to bring back better content, to do better experiments, and hopefully provide the most amount of value to you. But before I begin this video, I must start off with a little disclaimer that I'm not a medical doctor. The information in this video is purely for educational and entertainment reasons. Please consult your doctor with any medical concerns you may have. And again, do not listen to what I'm doing. This is purely just for entertainment and educational reasons. So let's get straight into this video. So let's start off with a little recap from episode 1. And the entire goal of this series is to get slightly enhanced in the safest way possible. Because men, you must understand, I'm not trying to get huge or super jacked because, well, a couple things. First, super expensive. Second, has a lot of side effects. And third, it does not look that good because we're all about trying to max out male life. And getting super jacked is not aesthetically pleasing, and as well it has all these other side effects as I just mentioned. So in episode 1, I did a lot of research because I'm pretty new to advanced anabolics and steroids. So I did my best to do lots of research to figure out the best way to get slightly enhanced. And since then, I've learned a lot, and as well I've experimented a lot, as you're about to see in this video, with all my blood work. And at the end of episode 1, I didn't even start my cycle, where since then I've started my cycle and I've learned so much, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's start off with my current cycle. And you'll see that my current cycle is a little bit different from episode 1 because since then I've done a lot more research and experimenting and realized what is the best for me in this current state of my knowledge and just my current state of life. So currently I'm doing Anavar at 5 milligrams for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Then I'm doing clenbuterol, which is a new compound I haven't really talked about too much, which I'm doing 20 micrograms 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Then I'm doing ACG at 500 IUs 3 times a week with no weeks off. I'm consistently doing that. Next, I'm doing clonopin citrate at 12.5 milligrams 3 times a week at 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. I'm doing the clonopin citrate once I'm done with my Anavar. So for example, I'll do 2 weeks of Anavar, and then I do my 2 weeks of off of Anavar, then I do my 2 weeks of clonopin, because a little bit of Anavar can cause some suppression of testosterone, so I'm preventing that by doing clonopin during those 2 weeks off. Next, I'm doing the masculine medicine 3 weeks on, 1 week off, which I believe to be the best natural test feature for men. Then going into my peptide bridge cycle, which I'm doing that during my 2 weeks off of Anavar, I'm doing testosterone and ipamorelin at 600 micrograms of testosterone and 200 micrograms of ipamorelin, and then I'm doing TB500 and BPC 157 at 400 micrograms of each. And you can see that my testosterone and ipamorelin is pretty low, and the reason why is I just don't want to get too big, and as well I'm slowly introducing more anabolics because I believe it's very important to start off more conservative and safer when getting into more advanced anabolics or just more advanced things for your health. Eventually I may increase the dosing of my peptides or do stronger peptides, but for now I've been pretty pretty happy with what I've been doing so far. Now let's go into my side effect prevention, which actually I've increased quite a bit because based off my blood work, I needed more of it even though I was doing a small amount, and I'll explain why this is later in the video. First, I'm doing a natural diuretic every single morning. Next, I'm doing DIM, which helps with estrogen, anywhere from 600 to 1200 micrograms a day. I'm doing calcium D glutamate daily at 1000 milligrams. Next is citrus bergamot at 1000 milligrams daily, which helps with my LDL levels. Next is krill oil and fish oil daily to also help with my lipid levels, but as well, it has a ton of other benefits. Next, I'm doing 4 to 8 grams of astragalus to help with my kidneys. And last, I'm doing TUDCA at 1000 milligrams daily to help with my overall organ protection and health. So now let's start off with my blood work, and this is where things get a little bit exciting because you can really see how things have affected my body and my blood work. But I want to go back a little bit and show where things first started. So my first time ever doing blood work was May 2nd, 2023. And all I got done was my total test, which I know is not that comprehensive, but I was pretty broke. And at May 2nd, 2023, all I've been doing was just the natural test boosters and peptides. So no Clonopine, no ECG, nothing advanced. And my total test was 600, which is average, but that's still not that great, especially since I tried so hard to max out my T. And then after May 2nd, I added in Clonopine citrate and I got retested in September and my total test came back to around 700. So about a 100-point increase. And again, I only got my total test checked because I was still very tight on money, but I received a 100-point increase from Clonopine. So now let's go into month 1 of my blood work. And this was taken January 2nd, 2024. And to give a little background of this blood work, up until that point, I did my first cycle and I did 5 milligrams of Anavar for 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and as well I was doing 250 IUs of ACG twice a week and no Clonopine. And what you'll see is that my testosterone dropped 300 points, which is pretty crazy, but I'll explain why that is and what happened. So as you can see from the blood work, my test levels is around 500. And here is why. First, the longer you take Anavar, the more suppression it will cause. So I took it for 3 weeks, which is why I switched down to 2 weeks to prevent the suppression. Second reason why I believe it dropped so much is that when you first start taking an oral steroid, because it's my first ever oral steroid, your body's very, very sensitive and has a higher response. So a little bit gave me a larger response. The third reason why I believe was such a drop is that I was only doing 250 IUs of ACG at twice a week, which is such a small amount. And as well, I wasn't doing any Clonopine. So I really did not have many hormonal supporters. Additionally, it does take some time for the ACG to kick in. So in summary, why my test dropped like 300 points is first, I was very sensitive to Anavar, so it's my first ever time taking it. Second, I did 3 week cycles on instead of being 2 weeks, which I normally do. And third, I was doing a very low amount of hormone supporters and I did not give my body enough time to really get the full benefit of the hormone supporters. And there's some other noteworthy things in my blood work that I wanted to show is that my LDL was slightly above 1 point, which I'm not worried about. And there's even some controversy of what is good lipid levels, but nothing too worried about. My estrogen levels were great. My vitamin D levels were great. My free test was not great, but it made sense because my test was only around 500. Now let's go into blood work 2. And this was taken about 1 month exactly after my last blood work. So this was taken on February 5th, 2024. So the changes I made from month 1 to month 2 was I did 2 weeks of Anavar on, 2 weeks off. I increased my dosing of ACG to 500 IUs 3 times a week. And additionally, I added in Clonopine citrate at 12.5 milligrams for 2 weeks on. And as you can see, it was a huge increase in my testosterone. It went from 500 to 900, which I was very happy with that, which meant that I found a good balance of still getting the max amount of benefits from Anavar, at the same time having the hormone supporters really support me and even increase my test levels to levels that I wanted to be. But as you can see, my blood work still showed some things that were concerning. A couple things. First, my kidney levels seem to be out of range in some way, my bun levels and my GFR. And I'm not really sure why that is because I was taking a lot of astragalus, which actually helps with your kidney levels. And even my dosing levels Anavar is so tiny. So I'm a little confused of why my levels were a little out of whack with the kidney, but let's move on to the more important things. And that is my estrogen level. So you can see my estrogen doubled, actually more than doubled to 48, which is out of the reference range. And this was concerning at first, but then I thought about it and it actually wasn't that concerning. And here's why. So So my testosterone levels jumped up 400 points, which that's a big amount in 1 month. And when your body makes more hormones, it makes more hormones of everything, including estrogen. So it's very natural, of course, I get an increase in testosterone, but at the same time, an increase in estrogen. And this is why it's so important to start slow and slowly work up to add in more advanced stuff. Because if you just shoot up so fast, your body will have no time to adjust. And this gave me a lot of good feedback because when I saw this number, it knew that I needed to double down on my DIM, which helps actually balance out estrogen levels. So overall from this blood work, I was actually very, very happy with it because I felt really good on it, but at the same time, I knew I could be better. And also I was very happy that I was still taking a very conservative approach and I wasn't blasting higher doses of Anavar. I wasn't using tests. I was still pretty moderate. As well, my test came up pretty high. Now let's go into blood work 3. This was taken March 6th, so about 1 month exactly after blood work 2. A couple things I changed from month 2 to month 3. First, all I did was increase my estrogen herbs because from month 2, my estrogen jumped up quite high and I really wanted to reduce that without using an AI. As well, my kidney levels really jumped up, or not really jumped up, but they were out of reference range. So I really increased my astragalus hoping that that would affect something. Let's actually get into the numbers. And the first thing is that my kidney levels actually seemed worse, which was very confusing to me because if anything, I was a lot more mindful of what I was doing for my kidneys. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm not for sure what that is. I'm still not too worried about it because nothing crazy out of reference range, but that's one thing I'll be focusing on for month 4 and month 5. But as you can see, my testosterone went up another 100 points and my estrogen went down 4 points. The thing is, my estrogen is still out of reference range of what it should be. I would like it a little bit lower, but I was very happy with this because my test went up 100 points and my estrogen went down, meaning that my body is becoming more adjusted to the higher levels of testosterone, and as well, the herbs are working. So my theory on this is that my body's getting used to the ACG, the Inclonopin, and the Anavar because I kept those the same, and is now gradually rising to a nice steady state, which is where I want to be. And since my body is not making these huge levels of hormones anymore, that means it can stabilize, and as well, that means the herbs can have a better time kicking in. And in addition, since I've been taking the herbs more consistently, they're now more effective because herbs take longer to affect your body. So I was very happy with my test levels, almost at 1,000, and I wasn't using any tests. I was using a very moderate dose of ACG and Inclonopin, and as well, my estrogen levels were lower. So my theory is in that month 4 and 5 and 6 is that hopefully my test might be around 1,100 to 1,200, and my estrogen might be down to let's say 30, maybe 25, without using tests and without using an AI, which for me, I'm very, very happy with. But the main thing I'll be focusing on month 4, 5, and 6 to really focus on my kidney levels and to figure out what is really going on. But one thing I did recently was I gave blood, which apparently is supposed to help with all the different blood levels and blood metrics. So hopefully that will give me some good feedback. And additionally, I still need to do deeper blood work investigation, but that costs more money. So in the future experiments, once I have more money, I'll get more comprehensive blood to see if there's anything else I can do to help monitor that. But overall, I was very happy so far with month 3, especially compared to month 1. So now let's go into the changes I noticed. And before I get into this, men, it's very important that I didn't just take Anavar and ACG and just that was it. It's that I still did everything that made me healthy and strong. I still worked out all the time. I ate really healthy. I did everything that I was doing for multiple years. I just added in Anavar and ACG, but here are some things I noticed. Let's first talk about my physique. So I definitely noticed when I was taking Anavar the 2 weeks on, I just looked a little bit fuller and a little bit leaner, which could be multiple things. It could be the water retention, who knows? But I definitely noticed that my pumps were definitely bigger and stronger at the gym. And overall, I would say a 10 to 20% difference in my physique. And you can definitely see in the pictures from month 1 to month 3, I look a little bit fuller and a little bit leaner. And then going to my facial changes, which this is pretty exciting and I didn't really think about, but Anavar and testosterone affects everything in the body, including your facial muscles. Like if you look at somebody with low T versus high T, they definitely look more masculine. And I noticed that my jawline really sharpened out when I was on Anavar and ACG, especially adding the natural diuretic, especially when I was really strict on my diet. And that's actually one thing you'll see in bodybuilders when they take a lot of roids, their face look really weird and it grows, which a small amount, can be very powerful for facial exercise and orthotropics. And that's actually another video I'll be making is advanced orthotropics of how a little bit of Anavar can actually really speed up and enhance facial exercises. And then going to some other physical changes I noticed, I definitely noticed that my balls and my penis got a little bit bigger. If you guys do know, I'm big into penis health, and ACG and clonopine can definitely help with testicle size and penis size. And as well, I do a lot of other penis health stuff. So it's hard to say, was it the ACG, was it the clonopine, was it the penis pumping, was it gelatin, who knows? But definitely my balls were bigger and fuller. And I had noticed a big difference from having tests at 500 to 1,000 that I had way stronger erections and way more libido. But as you can see, man, it's not this huge day and night difference. And that is not what I wanted. I did not want to blow up and get super jacked super fast, because that can have a lot of consequences. And as well, I want to slowly go with this and over time make the changes, because my mindset is that I want to be using oral steroids and all this kind of stuff for my entire life. It's not just a 1-year thing or a 2-year thing, it's a lifetime thing. So I'd rather be a lot safer and see how my body responds, find that perfect balance, and then see if I want more of that. Now let's go into the mental changes I noticed. And this is one thing that I don't think is talked about enough when it comes to having high testosterone or just, being enhanced, especially slightly enhanced, because too much can make you a little bit crazy. So I definitely noticed I had more motivation and confidence. When I take my Anavar, my ACG, I would wake up and want to smash my work. I was vicious, I would wake up, focus on my business, grind out, hit the gym, and I just felt more on top of my game. As well, I definitely noticed more aggression in my day-to-day. I noticed small things made me a little bit more irritated, which is why I'm so grateful to do lots of meditation and lots of mindfulness, because that's one thing I mentioned in other videos, is that a lot of men can have this power abuse them, where I'm very thankful, I'm very aware of these things, but I did notice more aggression came from me, which I actually used in a positive way in the gym. The next thing when it came to mental changes, where I just felt more confident and just more like a man in my body. There's definitely been a big difference of having tests at 500 versus tests at 1,000. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping men, because I can't imagine if every single man had tests of 1,000, like they would make such a huge difference in their work ethic, in their motivation, in their confidence, and them actually want to take action in their life. And now let's go into side effects I noticed. And probably the biggest side effect I noticed was water retention, mostly actually on the first month of taking Anavar, because my body was the most sensitive. And this is one thing that if you do research, is when you first take oral steroids or just steroids in general, your body will have the biggest response to it. So I'm very grateful I did a very small amount, but even with that small amount, I noticed quite a big amount of water retention. But I'm very grateful, since I did short cycles and I took natural diuretics, it definitely helped reduce that. And as well, when I was off the Anavar, it quickly reduced down. And as well, future cycles of me doing Anavar, I noticed less and less water retention. When it came to other side effects, I really did not have any. I mean, if you look at my blood work, yes, my estrogen levels went up higher. Yes, my kidney levels went up higher. But did I actually feel anything or notice anything? No, I didn't have any more acne. I didn't have any more hair loss. I didn't really have any negative side effects. And a big reason why is, first, I'm very healthy. Second, I'm doing all the herbs to help prevent side effects. And third, I'm doing such a small amount, which is why I'm so passionate about microdosing anabolic steroids, because I think it's such a cheat code, especially done in the right way, which is why I'm doing experiments, and which is why I'm showing all my blood work to really prove this point. So now, reflecting on my 3 months of my cycle, what are things I wish I did differently? The first thing is I wish I got more blood work done, like more comprehensive blood work done. But the thing is, I just don't have enough money for that, because the blood work I want to get done every single month would cost me around $1,000. Eventually, I will get there, because I do believe by having a more holistic perspective of all my blood levels, I can really see what is going on. The second thing I wish I did differently is I wish I started taking all of my side effect prevention herbs a month before starting. And the reason why is that all these herbs take time to work in the body. Herbs are very powerful, but they don't happen like this. Like pharmaceuticals have a very strong effect, but they have more side effects. So I wish I did herbs earlier, so by the time I started taking my oral steroids and everything else, that the herbs were being effective, reducing any unwanted side effects. I still didn't have many side effects, but I think overall my blood would be actually in a better state if I started earlier. The second thing I wish I did differently was taking a heavier dose of DIM, which that's the herb that actually helps lower estrogen levels. And as you can see from my blood work, my estrogen levels jumped up quite a bit, and that was even me taking a smaller amount. So if I did a higher amount, I definitely think it would have been lower, even within the reference range. But that was expected, because my levels jumped up 400 points and my body's still adjusting to find that perfect level to stay at. And the last thing I wish I did differently was for my first cycle to do 2 weeks on of Anavar and not 3 weeks, because I believe that gave me more side effects at the start, and as well doing a higher dose of ACG. And this way I would have less suppression and less side effects. But overall, I still am very happy because I did a very small amount, and as well I was getting regular blood work done so I could catch it early on instead of having to go on for many months and not catch it. So let's go into things that I did well. Well, the first thing, men, is that I've been heavily into health and working out for about 16 years. I've been training for 16 years. The first 12 years, I didn't even touch test boosters, like herbal test booster. All I did was just eat healthy and work out, which I'm very, very grateful. And then at year 12, I started looking into herbal test boosters and peptides. From year 12 to year 15, I did peptides and test boosters and clonopine, which was a great level up from just the natural stuff. And then at year 15, 16, I just started microdosing oral steroids and other stuff. So I believe I really did a great progression of not just getting straight into oral steroids because I already built such a solid foundation and my habits are so good already. Next thing I did well is I did a very conservative cycle. I see so many men go straight into blasting Anavar or other stronger steroids. First time, they have all the side effects, they have no experience, and they get a horrible time and they really mess up their bodies. And me, being a men's health researcher, I was still fairly new to this. I was very cautious. I did so much research and I started off with a very conservative approach, which many people who actually look at my cycle, they may laugh at me because it's so conservative, but my goals and my intention is much, much different than most people, how they actually use oral steroids or more advanced anabolics. And I'm very happy I did that because I gave my body enough time to adjust. I prevented a ton of roadblocks and gave myself a ton of room to get better, because the thing is, man, once you start taking anabolics, these more advanced things, it's hard to go back. And I'd much rather start slower and work up than go extreme and have all these horrible things that it's really hard to reverse. Next thing I did very well is that I use multiple hormone supporters very consistently and regularly throughout my cycle, and I still do. And I see a lot of men don't do this, which is super confusing to me. So for example, I'm using ACG, I'm using clonopine citrate, I'm using masculine medicine, I'm using other biohacks to help keep my body strong and fertile and to help keep my body actually producing testosterone naturally. Where I see men, once they get on tests or these steroids, they just give up on their natural body's production and heavily rely on these other things and shut down their body completely. I think that's silly. And even too, as you can see, without me even using tests, just ACG and clonopine, my levels are almost at 1,000. So there's so much power in these more hormone supporters that are very safe, have a huge increase in benefits, but people just aren't tapping into them, or maybe they just ignore them. They jump over these things and go straight into the more powerful things. So I'm very happy I did these, I continue to do these, because for me, fertility and longevity is very, very important. And this is why ACG and clonopine and the masculine medicine are so important. Next thing I did really well is I got regular blood work every single month, which is huge, man, so huge, because if I did not get regular blood work, I would really have no idea what was happening in my body. I would have no idea to take more DIM. I would have no idea that my estrogen jumped up or that my test jumped up. I can maybe feel it, but actually having blood work gave me a much better perspective of what to do and how to change. And next thing I did very well, which my light just died down, so ignore that, is that I did a lot of meditation, because I noticed around, week 2, or even as my testosterone got higher, I was feeling strong and powerful and I wanted more. I could feel my ego getting greedy for that power. And I knew a couple things. First, that if I did more and more and more, I'd have more side effects. And second, I would lose myself, because I've caught myself doing some dumb things like just getting super horny and texting these girls, or like just random stuff that I'm like, this is not like me and this is not the man I want to become. So it was very great to do meditation, to get rooted back in my body and get clear on my intentions and why I started this in the first place and how to use this power in the best way possible. So here's a summary of being on steroids, or just my cycle, because it's still a very conservative cycle. And there's a lot of conception that people think you're gonna feel crazy, you're gonna feel like a superhuman. But first thing, men, is that steroids won't correct bad lifestyle factors. If you're not eating healthy, if you're not working out, you're not doing all these things that make you healthy as a man, the only thing steroids will do is actually probably make you more unhealthy. So they won't correct bad lifestyle factors, and they won't make you super jacked overnight. And if you do get super jacked overnight, you're probably gonna have a lot of side effects. But overall, I did notice like a 15 to 20% difference in how I felt when I first started. And yes, that is a big difference. And yes, that is a huge male advantage. But very important to note, man, is how I did this. I was very cautious, I was very conservative. I really maxed out my lifestyle factors. I really used this power to the best of my ability. And because of that, I got the most from it. So what is my next cycle? Because as you can see, man, I'm always adapting, I'm always changing, I'm trying to fine tune that perfect cycle. The first thing is I'm definitely gonna keep increasing my DIM to lower my estrogen. I really wanna stay away from an AI if I can. And I really think that I'll be able to achieve this because as you can see from blood work 2 to blood work 3, is that my test went up 100 points and my estrogen dropped 4 points. So I really believe is that as my test stabilizes, that my estrogen will slowly kind of stabilize back down to its normal reference range, especially if I continue taking higher doses of DIM. The second thing I'm looking into is adding in testosterone cypionate, maybe around 100 micrograms per week. I still don't know the exact amount I'll be doing, but my goal is to get my tests up around 1500, or that is what I believe I want it to be. I still don't know how I'm gonna feel or what's gonna be like, but I wanna increase a little bit more to really maximize how it's gonna feel. And one thing you may be thinking is, Matthew, why don't you just take more ACG or clonopine? The thing is, I don't want to abuse the hormone supporters because taking too much of those can actually cause other side effects. And this is what I'm learning. It's like a little puzzle of how to maximize each different component of an anabolic cycle to get the most out of it, at the same time having the least amount of side effects, and as well preserving your power with each compound. For example, I could take more ACG, maybe 1000 IUs. Yeah, sure, I can maybe get my test up to 1500 with that, but the thing is taking more ACG will actually lose its potency over time on my body. I'm doing my best to do the lowest amount of ACG I can to get the most out of it. And same thing with test. If all I did was take a lot of test and no ACG, it's like, yeah, sure, I get my levels up to 1500 with just tests, but then I would lose all the benefit of taking ACG, which will help keep my balls nice and full and healthy. So I'm thinking just by taking 100 micrograms of tests, I could potentially get my levels up to 1500. I still don't know yet. Still a lot more research and experiments to do. The next change on my cycle that I'm really gonna focus on is my kidney protection, because as you can see, is that my kidney levels were just increasing over time, which I do not like that. And there's 3 things I think will really help with this. The first thing is increasing my astragalus, which that helps a lot with kidney protection. Second thing is taking more calcium D-glutamate, which is gonna help cycle out my sex hormones, which will help protect the kidney. And the third thing is giving blood, which I've already done. So I'm very excited to see how my blood will change from doing these 3 things. But overall, I'm not too worried about this just because my levels aren't crazy high, but at the same time, it's better to catch it early than to wait. And as well, I am still doing a very conservative cycle, so I don't have too much to worry about. But at the same time, I want to catch it before it gets out of hand. And the entire goal of this series is how to be slightly enhanced in the safest way possible, and that involves having good blood markers. So now let's kind of wrap up this video and talk about the goals to achieve, because since I started this series, I've been getting more and more clarity of what I really want out of this. You know, why do I want to become slightly enhanced? And when it comes to the perfect cycle, what I have in my mind is having my tests at around 1500, my total test anywhere from like 30 to 40, maybe 50, depends how I feel, my estrogen levels in a nice even mid-range, and then all my other blood markers perfect, at the same time being fertile, healthy, and strong, and not looking too jacked. That would be the goal. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do that, but I do have a good idea that I will get there with the right strategy and the right mindset and the right experiments. But I do think that would be amazing. Like, imagine this, man. Imagine you had tests at 1500 and all your blood markers were perfect and all the compounds you were taking the minimal dose to get that amount. It'd be such a hack to life, especially if you had healthy lifestyle factors, especially if you're using that power to max out your life, which that is what this channel is about. So let's go into episode 3, the plans and the goals. The first thing is that I'll be starting testosterone cypionate. That's the plan anyways, we will see. So a lot of more research and things I need to look into before starting that, but I would like to start that at a lower dose. The second goal is to get my levels, my test levels up to 1300 to 1500. Right now they're at 1000, so we'll see if I can do that. The third thing is to get my blood markers down in a good spot. So that really focuses on my estrogen levels and my kidney levels. So we'll see what I can do. I'm gonna do a lot more experiments and research. So much to explore, so much to research. So exciting, I can't wait to share with you. But anyways, men, that is all the updates for episode 2. I'm doing my best to be as transparent, as clear as possible. So if you have any questions or things you want to see, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to share. Have an amazing day. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos.